All right, sir. Welcome to Identity Forge week number 4, where we are diving into the different qualities of a man. And so last week we talked about courage and boldness. In the first week, I've got my notes over here, we talked about strength and how the glory of a young man is his strength. So a man is called to be strong, absolutely 110% in every area. Secondly, a man is called to be courageous and bold. And so that's what we talked about last week. So this week, the third of the 5 qualities of a man is discipline and self control. A man is called to be disciplined and self controlled. So, Proverbs 25, verse 28 says, "A man without self control is like a city broken into and left without walls." So then it goes on in Titus chapter 2, verses 6 through 8. He says this: "Likewise, urge the younger men, you guys, to be self controlled. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching, show integrity, dignity, and sound speech, so that you cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may not be put to shame, or so that you may not be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us." So, a man without self control is like a city broken into and left without walls. When you don't have discipline, you don't have any defense. Anything can get in. Discipline and self-control are the things that they are the guardrails on our life. Jocko Willink is huge on this. I would highly recommend his book, Discipline Equals Freedom, because it's true. We often think of discipline as it's something restrictive. It's something that constrains us, and that's actually not true. Discipline is actually the thing that focuses us in the things that we actually want and need to do and grants us the most amount of freedom. So if I have 10 things that I need to get done in a single day, I can either say, well, I'm going to get this one done at this time, and then this one at this time, and then this one at this time, and then commit to doing it. Or I'm just going to kind of go with the flow and just kind of feel it and just kind of feel my way through my day and just rely on bursts of motivation. And then before you know it, I've only completed 3 and it's 5 o'clock, and now I need to complete the next 7 because I wanted to have all this freedom. And instead, I didn't get anything done, but I spent more time working than I needed to because I wasn't constrained to a time. I wasn't disciplined with what I was doing. And then I was just backloaded in the rest of the day, and I had to rush to get stuff done. Discipline brings freedom. So right now, I am in week 5 or 6 of working out consistently, 5, minimum of 5, max of 6 days per week. And that started with the January challenge. And in the beginning, it was all motivation. Man, the motivation was so high. Well, guys, now it is week 5, week 6. Like I said, there's not a ton of motivation anymore. It's just straight discipline. But the cool thing is my body and my mind has learned there's no argument. This is just what we do now. This is what we do. So when I woke up this morning, gentlemen, it's legs. I have never, number one, hit legs consistently as I've hit other muscle groups. But number 2, I have never worked out consistently in the morning in my life. If I ever had to work out in the morning, it's because there was some crazy circumstance that forced me to. I've always been a night lifter. Well, gentlemen, I'm a husband and a father now. So I can either have an excuse, which is, I just don't have time, which is what every other bum father and husband who is not taking care of their bodies says, or I can simply become the type of person who works out in the morning. And it sucked at first, and I didn't like it, and it's not something that I enjoyed. But now when I get up in the morning, gentlemen, there is no question anymore. There is no debate. There is nothing that stops me from going to the gym, getting on the daggum treadmill, walking for 5 minutes, and then getting into my freaking lift. It has no bearing on how I feel. And guess what? You know how much energy it requires now to really get into that? About that much. In the beginning, oh yeah, I had to push myself, but now it's about that much. Why? Discipline is carrying me now. Discipline is carrying me. At first, I had to build discipline, and now discipline is carrying me. And as long as I follow through on the discipline that I already feel in here, it continues to build. So for you, As a man, you are called to be disciplined and have self-control. You'll notice with all of these things, with 2 weeks ago, we talked about strength. Last week, we talked about courage. Now we're talking about discipline. Have you noticed that all three of those are lacking in men today? Men are not strong. They don't take pride in their strength anymore. Men are by and large cowardly in our society. They are not courageous. And discipline and self-control? No. Most men are addicted to porn, addicted to drinking, not disciplining their bodies, not disciplined with their finances, not disciplined with their reading and their spiritual disciplines. They are just not disciplined. Now, a lot of this isn't their fault. They were never taught, which is why Sons of Strength exists. But the other part of it is, in the age of comfort, you can get away with it. It used to be the case, guys. If we lived 200 years ago, guess what? You're not disciplined. You don't eat. You starve. Because you didn't get up. You didn't go harvest the fields. You did not plant the seed, water the seed, cultivate the ground, and then go out in the harvest. You didn't do it. So you starve. That sucks. You're going to lose a ton of weight. You got to be a beggar on the side of the streets. Now, life is so comfortable. There's so many comforts. You can be just as pathetic and mediocre as that beggar back then without being a beggar. The thing is, that beggar would probably work harder than you and me now. So we have to cultivate this discipline intentionally. Gentlemen, Alex Hormozy said this, and I don't want to get too far off on this, but Alex Hormozy, if you don't know him, go follow him on Instagram, has made hundreds of millions of dollars. Dude is yoked out of his mind. Business guru. He is just insanely smart. And he said it's never been easier to be successful than right now. Never in human history has it been easier to be successful than now. He said most people just won't work that hard. They don't know how to follow through. They don't know how to say no. They just do whatever. He doesn't know that he's saying this, but this is the Mitch translated version. They just go wherever their passions, their fleshly passions, just drift them on along rather than having a vision and being focused and staying set on that. So discipline and self-control. Well, how do we build discipline? How do we build self-control? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy, but it is straightforward. So discipline. Firstly, you have to articulate your goal. What is your end point? What are you shooting for? And I don't mean something vague like make a lot of money. That's not a goal. How much money do you want to make this year? Where do you want to be within a year? Set a goal for the 5 columns. In 1 year, where do you want to be physically? Where do you want to be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and financially? Where do you want to be in those 5 areas? Really think on that. And when you get the answer, physically, I want to be jacked. Why? Why do you want to be jacked? Well, I mean, what guy doesn't want to be jacked? That's not an answer. Why do you want to be jacked? Well, I want to be jacked because, I think I would be more confident. Great. Why do you want to be more confident? Well, I guess I struggle with insecurities. Why do you struggle with insecurities? Because I haven't ever really followed through on working out, and so that makes me feel like I'm not somebody who follows through. Why haven't you followed through? Because I haven't really believed in my goals, and I haven't believed in myself. So this gives you the bigger internal, big picture perspective that allows for you to conjure up that fuel and that drive to know your actual why. It's not just get jacked. What you're trying to do is become the type of person who is confident and shows up in the room confident, knowing that not only is he strong, not only is he one of the stronger people in the room, but he is one of 5% of the population in the United States who works out consistently. Only 5% lift weights consistently in the United States. You are in the top 5% of human being in the U.S. if you work out consistently. That level of discipline in the gym is that carries over. I say this all the time. It carries over into other areas, and your brain knows it. That's why you feel more confident when you're talking to a girl or you're doing any of these other types of things, financial decisions or whatever. Even if you're still insecure, you're still way more confident than you were before you started working out and being disciplined in the gym. So it carries over. So when you write down these goals for each of the 5 columns, ask yourself why. Get down to the bottom of it. Why do you want to make a lot of money? If somebody asked me that a year ago, I just would have been like, well, yeah, I want to provide for my family and I want to ease some stress. If somebody asked me that now, you know what my answer is? It's, I want to serve my wife and daughter in the greatest capacity possible. I never want my daughter to lack for anything. I never want any opportunity to be close to her just because I couldn't afford it because her dad was lazy, undisciplined, and didn't strive high. I want my son to see an example of a man who works hard but still shows up for his family and never sacrifices his family for work. I want my sons and my daughters to see that their dad loves them so much that he works really hard. Not works a lot, but works really hard when he does work. And he works on his mind, he works on his body and his spirit, and he goes out and tries to provide as much value to other human beings as possible, to accrue wealth, to give to my family so they'll never lack for anything. They will eat the best food that's healthiest for them. They will drive the safest cars, not the most expensive, the safest cars. They will have the best opportunities. They will have the best networks because their dad worked for them. That's my why financially. So articulate your 5 whys. And then Nietzsche said this, Nietzsche is one of the greatest philosophers of all time. He's called the philosopher who philosophized with a hammer. It's kind of crazy. Philosophy with a hammer. But he said this. He said, a man with a strong enough why can endure almost any how. A man with a strong enough why can endure almost any how. That's why the men, whenever there's warfare, whenever there's a war, the side that has husbands and fathers is usually the side that is going to fight the hardest, because their why is that while they're fighting, they're picturing their wife and their kids in their head. Whereas the, 18, 19-year-old dudes on the other side are sitting there going, screw this, I'm fighting for the glory of my country. That is not nearly as strong of a why as that man fighting for his whole world, which is his wife and his kids. So articulate your why. And when you do that, whenever you're not motivated to follow through on the thing, so let's just stick with the physical right now. When you're not motivated to go to the gym, and your brain starts to come up with all these excuses. Guys, we're so good at coming up with excuses. Stop rationalizing. Stop it. Go. If you have a doctor's appointment, you're not going to come up with some excuse and some reason why you can't. You're just going to go. It's on your schedule, and so you go. Schedule your workout and go. And whenever you're doubting whenever you're doubting and you're not motivated to go, remind yourself of your why and remind yourself of the cost of not going. I'm getting a phone call. Anyways, so remind yourself of the cost of not going as well, because there is a cost to every decision that we refuse to make. So remember, set your 5 goals for a year from now and dive into your reason why. Ask the question, well, why do I want this goal? Well, why? Until you get all the way down to the root of the real reason and be completely honest with yourself. You don't got to tell anybody. Maybe you just want to get jacked because you like the girl across the street and you want her to like you. But even then you can ask the question, why? Because you want to find a wife. Why? Because that's what's most meaningful. Right? And so I want to get jacked because I want what's most meaningful. That's a powerful motive in comparison to just, I want the best body I can get. So ask yourself why for your 5 goals. Discipline. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Discipline equals freedom. And you build discipline by having a powerful enough why behind it. And regardless of how you feel, you choose to do the thing anyway, because that's what men do. The third quality of a man, the first was courage. The first was strength. The second was courage. And the third is discipline. Discipline. The man who knows what he wants. The man who knows what's right and what's wrong. And the man who is committed to those things regardless of the circumstances around him, of how he feels, or of any excuses that may try to pop up. He does it anyway. Discipline brings freedom. Highly recommend Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink. So strength, courage, and discipline. Come back next week and we'll dive into the fourth quality. Love you guys.